Greetings, dear friends. We continue to study the situation on the front lines with you in our daily format. However, last night a terrible event occurred, a tragedy. A strike was carried out on the city of Sudzha in the Kursk region, targeting a school internat where civilians who had not managed to evacuate from the city were located. In fact, there were both disabled individuals and elderly people, simply ordinary local residents. We will analyze this situation together and also discuss what is currently happening in the Kursk region. Let's open the map. Actually, I had planned to discuss details from other sections of the front today, as there is a lot of news, but as you can see, everything changes, and it does not depend on us, neither on me nor on you. For many people, today is a black day. I am referring to the relatives of those who were injured or killed in the strike. So, the Kursk region, the city of Sudzha. What is known at the moment? The strike was carried out on the school internat. This school is located at the address, Lenin Street, building number 9. This is the building. It is a 3-story brick building located at the intersection of Lenin and Shchepkin streets. According to all available information, and when I say all, I mean both the Armed Forces of Ukraine, AFU, as they essentially control the city, and the Russian military command. So, according to all available information, this was a temporary holding point for civilians who had not managed to leave the city before it was captured by the AFU. Additionally, as I mentioned, there were also elderly people and disabled individuals here. The exact number is unknown, as is the exact number of people currently trapped under the rubble. However, if, as claimed, about 100 people were housed there, and the building is not small and can accommodate significantly more than 100 people, then the number of casualties. The strike was devastating, as can be seen from the footage, because there were several hits. I won't share these images here. I've posted them on my Telegram channel. You can go there, take a look, and subscribe. The link is in the video description. So considering the power of the strike, it's possible that we're talking about dozens of casualties. A statement was issued claiming that the strike was carried out using guided aerial bombs, KABs. The Russian Ministry of Defense, in turn, denied this information. A separate statement was also issued regarding this situation, indicating that the strike was carried out with rockets from the Sumy region. Later, the type of rockets was specified, HIMARS rockets, and the launches were conducted from the village of Malaya Ribica. This village is located in the northwest of the Sumy region. Here it is, the distance to Sudzha. Let's measure it. It turns out to be 27 kilometers. In general, what can I say? The situation is very tragic, especially for the relatives of the victims. And I also want to express my sincere condolences. As for the overall situation in the Kursk region, if we abstract from this particular incident and look at the front line, the situation in the Kursk region is gradually changing. And if we're talking about the city of Sudzha, from the south, the Russian army has not yet managed to advance, but to the northwest, the situation for the AFU is becoming increasingly unfavorable, I would say. In general, we'll analyze this together now. So what do we have at the moment? Let's start with the south. Makhnovka. Here, a slight advance by the Russian army has been noted. Let me remind you that most of the village was under Russian control, but then the AFU managed to gather sufficient forces in Sudzha, formed a strike group, and in a counterattack pushed the Russian troops out of Makhnovka. For 2 weeks, the situation remained static, meaning the AFU, having taken control of Makhnovka, could not advance further, although attempts were made. Meanwhile, Russian units were unable to enter the village. But everything changed just the day before yesterday. During a counter-battle, Russian assault units managed to break through the defenses, enter the southern outskirts of the village, secure positions in nearby buildings, and then develop the initial success, advancing several hundred meters into the village. And by the way, you understand, right, that many Telegram channels were spreading outright fake news the day before yesterday, claiming that they were already advancing towards Zamostyia. How can they go to Zamostyia if Zamostyia is right here? And to enter Zamostyia, they first need to fully control Makhnovka. That hasn't happened, but in general, many are spreading information just to get views. Be cautious of such channels. So let's move on. Things are bad for the AFU, as I mentioned, to the northwest. For quite some time, they managed to hold back the Russian army on the approaches to Sverdlovkovo, preventing them from overcoming the last section. But in the end, they couldn't hold back the pressure, and now Russian troops have advanced 1 kilometer and 300 meters, reached the outskirts, and entered the village itself. Now, Sverdlovkovo is of great importance to the AFU. Previously, for context, command posts were even located here. Why is it important? Look at the map. If the AFU are driven out of Sverdlovkovo, then it's a straight path for them all the way to Sudzha. Well, more precisely, to Zaoleshniki. And Zaoleshniki adjoins the city of Sudzha. Right now, in Sverdlovkovo, fierce battles have been ongoing for 4 days. The AFU are bringing in reserves from Sudzha. The goal is to delay the Russian troops for as long as possible. It's clear why. Because if they are driven out of Sverdlovkovo, they won't be able to hold back the Russian advance along the highway, as there are no fortifications here, just the road and fields all the way to Sudzha. In general, I would say the situation here is close to a disaster for the AFU. As for other sections of the front in the Kursk region, well, on the line from Viktorovka to Pogrebki, there are no significant changes overall. Half of Pogrebki is currently under Russian control, while the other half is controlled by the AFU. Novaya Sorochina, Staraya Sorochina, and Nikolaevka are grey zones, with no stable control by either the AFU or Russian troops. Viktorovka, however, is under the control of the Ukrainian armed forces, as is Malaya Lochnia. At the same time, 2 attempts have already been made to enter Viktorovka, but so far without any results. On the other side, Russian troops have reached the eastern outskirts of Cherkaskoye Porechnoye, but major battles for the village itself have not yet begun. And finally, perhaps it's worth noting the situation in this area. Here, Russian troops have crossed the Psel River and secured positions in the Krynichny Yar area, effectively between Kurilovka and Guevo. Moreover, their positions are now on the outskirts of Guevo itself. Overall, that's the situation in the Kursk region. Now let's move further south. Let's start with the Kurakhove direction. On the southern flank, Russian assault groups on the left bank of the Sukiye Yali River have advanced more than 2.5 kilometers towards the village of Ulakli, and have also expanded their control zone along the line from Zelenovka to Yantanaya. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Ukrainian side, showing attacks on forward Russian positions using FPV drones. As a result, over 7 square kilometers of territory have come under Russian control. Additionally, Russian forces continue their assault towards the southeastern outskirts of the village of Konstantinovka, where battles are currently underway for a Ukrainian strongpoint covering the entrance to the settlement. On the eastern flank, fierce fighting continues without visible changes in the southern part of the village of Dakhny, where forward Russian groups are pushing towards the center of the village. On the northern flank, Russian troops are expanding their control zone west of the village of Shevchenko, thereby straightening the front line between the trench system in the north and a company strongpoint on the eastern outskirts of Andreevka. Next, the Pokrovsk direction. On the left flank, after gaining control of the village of Novaya Yelizavetovka, Russian troops expanded their control zone and advanced south towards the northern outskirts of the village of Shribna. Additionally, assault units successfully advanced about 2 kilometers west and took control of the southeastern part of the neighboring village of Nadezhdinka. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Ukrainian side, showing attacks on forward Russian positions using FPV drones. Moreover, today the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that as a result of decisive actions, the village of Novovasilievka has come under the full control of the center troop grouping. Forward Russian groups have also advanced along the Krivulia Gully northwest of the village of Solonoye towards Kameny Otval. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Ukrainian side, showing attacks on forward Russian positions using FPV drones. Meanwhile, pro-Ukrainian sources report heavy fighting with Russian troops in the central part of the village of Udakhnoye, on the eastern outskirts of the village of Zverevo, and confirm the advance of Russian units along the railway towards the western administrative borders of Pokrovsk, which we discussed in yesterday's update. Next, the Toretsk direction. Here, west of Toretsk, Russian assault units have advanced more than a kilometer from the direction of the Centralnaya mine spoil tips and have reached the eastern outskirts of the village of Shcherbinovka. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Ukrainian side, showing attacks on forward Russian positions using FPV drones. Additionally, according to some sources, Russian troops have eliminated a pocket on the southwesternmost outskirts of Toretsk, taking control of the territory of the treatment facilities and the racetrack, though this has not been confirmed on the ground. Next, the Chasiv Yar direction. Further advances by Russian forces have been noted, up to 1 kilometer towards the southeastern outskirts of the Shevchenko micro-district in the central part of Chasiv Yar. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Russian side, showing successful assault actions by Russian units and the clearing of Ukrainian positions on the approaches to the micro-district. During this attack, enemy positions were identified and immediately targeted with artillery strikes. Simultaneously, in the northern part of the city, Russian troops are completing the clearing of the 10th and Novoseveny micro-districts. It is reported that the AFU retains control of several streets on the westernmost outskirts. Next, the Kupiansk direction. On the western bank of the Oskol River, units of the 25th Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces have significantly advanced northeast from the village of Dvureknoye, covering a distance of about 6 kilometers, and have taken control of the neighboring village of Novomlinsk, as well as cleared its surroundings. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Ukrainian side, showing attacks on forward Russian positions located beyond the administrative borders of the village using FPV drones. As a result, Russian troops have expanded the bridgehead by approximately 9 square kilometers. We discussed the prospects of this bridgehead in more detail in the update from January 28th. Next, the Kharkiv direction. Adjustments to the map in favor of Ukrainian forces have been noted north of the aggregate plant. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Russian side, showing attacks on forward Ukrainian positions using FPV drones. Fierce fighting continues for the plant itself, most of which is in a grey zone without stable control by either side. On the South Donetsk and Siversk directions, there are no visible changes. In the Kursk region, the front line has also not undergone significant changes.